And we are live. Hi, my name is Tyriece Simon.
Elijah Jones.
This is MMA Renegade Podcast, episode 12. Elijah, how are you doing on this nice day?
It is a beautiful day. Yesterday, I don't know if you were up last night, late last night, but we obviously, before UFC and then after UFC. Did you see the thunderstorms going on last night and the lightning?
Yes.
It was crazy. I was like, what kept me up? Kept me up till like 2 o'clock. I was like, wow, we really gonna do this. We really gonna do this in the middle of the summer.
Well, I mean, listen, it's been an unusual summer so far. We got tropical storms. Supposed to happen yesterday, didn't happen yesterday in eastern part of America, New York. Thunderstorms in the middle of the night. We've got a bunch of tropical storms or rain throughout the week, last week. So it's been an off and on thing.
It's been interesting to have this kind of weather. So I wouldn't say it's early in the summer. I want to say midsummer, right? It's so weird to have this because usually we're used to sweltering heat where we're looking at each other like, yo, chill, don't touch me. Like, don't look at me, don't touch me. It's too much.
Right.
But right now we're getting a mix between really hot days and really crazy rainy days. So I don't know. How are you?
I'm doing good, sir. I'm doing good. Ready to talk about this UFC Vegas 31 card, which was supposed to be Max Holloway and Yair Rodriguez, which probably would have justified more of it being at 10 p.m. Eastern time card.
I would have loved if that's what we got.
Everybody will love that. I think that's the reason why they made it on big ESPN. There's another reason why the next card that's coming up is going to be on ESPN as well, because they were looking for that big marquee fight. Unfortunately, they didn't get that, but they got a suitable replacement on short notice. Before we get any further, I just want to say we had a viewer, a subscriber, Toby Green. You may have seen him in our past episodes. We talk about Nate Diaz and how he thought Nate Diaz was going to get beat by Leon Edwards badly, and I debated him on that. He's been a great addition to the Discord that we have. The Discord where we do watch alongs. We have open discussions there. Things that we can't address on the show, we discuss on the Discord, and we're able to communicate more, and we could have more open dialogues.
It was fun the night we were on Discord. I thought we were going back and forth talking. I thought it was pretty interesting. Very good time.
Yeah. And Toby Green, this the shout out to him. He has a great mind for MMA. Me and him debated a bunch about fighter pay, and we discussed how much the title means to a fighter and this and that. So there's a lot of good discussion and good dialogue happening in Discord, which I implore you all to. Again, it's in the description. You click that link there. It's free. It's not going to charge you anything. It's just a way for us, me and Elijah, and for you guys to communicate with each other and talk to each other and openly and discuss MMA. So I just want to plug that there. Also, subscribe to the channel. Share, like if you can. Elijah, social media. You are Elijah Jones. Just Elijah Jones on social media, right?
No, I'm actually Black Clark Kent. It's actually
Black Clark Kent.
Yeah, I am Black Clark Kent. Please,
This is news to me. Why are you Black Clark Kent?
So I used to, as you can tell, we're both glasses wearer, and I used to have these black glasses that back in the day that my mom got when I first got to high school, and I was consistently wearing like these black square frames, similar to like the Clark Kent glasses. When he's that moment when he's running and taking his button down off to become Superman, and my mom's friend kept calling me that. Look at you, Clark Kent. You got nice glasses. I'm like, oh god. So I was like, why not? I don't have any other creative name for Instagram, so let's use Black Clark Kent.
So Black Clark Kent on Instagram, and then Facebook, Twitter. What is
just Elijah?
Elijah.
Yeah, I'm that guy Eli on Twitter, but I'm hardly on Twitter. I only did that for a sneaker contest.
And then for Facebook, you were Elijah Jones. All right. It's for me, Tyriece Simon, plain, simple, professional. Tyriece Simon on Facebook, Tyriece Simon on Twitter. More professional than Black Clark Kent on Instagram. But nonetheless, we will get into UFC Vegas 31. And Elijah, you start us off.
It's actually interesting because I do this all the time. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't get tired of it. I really do. So last night, UFC brought to us yet another amazing event, what was known as UFC Vegas 31. We had Islam Makhachev, a man riding an impressive win streak in UFC against a new touted person who had rose up from, I believe, the Tuesday Night Contender Series, getting a contract and getting on UFC, and known as Thiago Moises. I think we could all say that we knew that the winner of this fight has the potential to be in the top 5 within the next couple of months. And this fight went just about how I thought it could go. Islam Makhachev ended up with a submission victory, I believe, in round 4.
Yes, round 4.
Round 4. And I want to say, Islam Makhachev, a guy that a lot of people touted about, a lot of people saying that a lot of people are afraid to face him. Islam, I mean, that man knows what he's doing. He trains with Khabib and trains out of AKA, and a lot of people compare to Khabib based on the wrestling prowess and the ability. But what we saw last night was his striking efficiency. I mean, he didn't put on this huge striking clinic, but we saw bits and pieces of how well he's able not only to counter strike, but to push forward, push the pace, engage in the clinch. We saw the clinch work on his part multiple times. Thiago Moises did a very great job in trying to initiate the clinch, but it just, Islam Makhachev not only seemed to be the bigger guy, but he also seemed to have more tools when it came to the clinch. And for me last night, that not only was the submission win very impressive, but just what was shown in his repertoire in terms of the clinch game and his countering ability. I think Islam Makhachev is going to be a guy who is going to be fighting for the belt soon if he gets those next few fights right.
Yeah, I thought Islam Makhachev was very impressive last night. Thiago Moises is somebody that is known for his jiu-jitsu and his grappling. Yeah. And for him to be able to neutralize Islam Makhachev able to neutralize Thiago Moises was really impressive. I thought early on Thiago Moises looked good. I thought he started off good with high kicks and body kicks. The commentary brought up something of maybe the moment got to him a little bit, or maybe he was trying to settle himself down in the first round. You see him initiate the clinch, which was interesting for him to do on Islam Makhachev. But the story of the fight really was just Islam Makhachev forward pressure, his ability to keep Thiago Moises on the back foot, constantly hand fighting, constantly throwing a jab, playing the jab to try to give Thiago Moises guessing that Thiago Moises was biting on a lot of the feints early on.
Which is interesting because Thiago Moises had Islam Makhachev bite the whole first round. He had Islam biting on all his feints. And then it switches after that first round where he's biting on everything while being pushed back. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, and even in the clinch, when Thiago Moises would initiate the clinch and he's trying to settle himself down or trying to find some things so maybe he could take him down or impose his own will on Islam Makhachev. Islam Makhachev did things that is little small things, like he would push down on the head and circle and reverse the position. Even when his back is against the cage and he's in the clinch, he would throw shots to the body,
throw knees. He would throw these beautiful. He engaged in a tie plum multiple times with the clinch. I was not only impressed, I was like, wow, most people can get taken down from that if they're not careful. But Thiago Moises, he had a good guard against the knees, but he had nothing for the elbows that he was also landing, like the inside elbow like this. And then, just the creativity when it comes to striking. Islam Makhachev proved he has it. He has it.
It's constant motion. It's constant movement. It's constant action throughout the fight, where you're not really getting a break. Whether you're moving on your back foot as he's walking you down, or whether you're in the clinch trying to settle things down, or even in grappling exchanges on the ground. Like Islam Makhachev is constantly moving. It makes it him a very difficult opponent to face. And Thiago Moises kind of felt that. It seemed like, as the fight got on from round 1 to the end of round 4, it seemed like Islam Makhachev was really wearing on Thiago Moises and really sapped the morale and the energy of Thiago Moises.
Yeah, I think one of the bigger things was the exchange in round 2. I believe that's where Thiago was able to get him down for a little bit. And then I think Makhachev was able to not only get back up or, get to a better position, but Thiago kind of jumped on his back immediately. And that's when he jumped up. When he jumped, I think he also realized he was very high on the back and ends up sliding down, and Makhachev ends up controlling him for the rest of the round. I think those little bit of errors, those can be fixed. I think this fight obviously shows a difference in skill level between Makhachev and Thiago Moises, but I do think there are things that Thiago can compensate and kind of grow from this. This is a very big learning point because Makhachev had him in every single facet of the game last night. Every single facet, striking, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, you name it, Clint. Like there was just no position where I thought, Thiago Moises had the edge after seeing that. Before, sure, but after seeing the fight,
it was complete domination. Complete domination. To Zach D18, yo, how you doing?
What's up?
Islam Makhachev is somebody that is going to be somebody's going to be talked about in the division, and with his protege being a protege of Khabib Nurmagomedov, it's a great transition. Islam Makhachev beats Thiago Moises by submission against somebody that's known for his submission. Let me ask you this, Elijah. Let me actually play this simple. Do you think Islam Makhachev is the next Khabib?
I think he is on his way to being. I think there's big similarities when it comes to wrestling, but there's a lot of differences when it comes to striking because Islam Makhachev is also willing. His Muay Thai, I think, is better than Khabib's. He's throwing body kicks. He's throwing these jabs. One of the more impressive moments of the fight for me was when he stepped back and hit Thiago Moises with a counter right hook, which I thought was impressive because he was at a certain point he was just trying to get out the way, He's like, no, I'm going to lead him down to me. Boom, catches him with a right hook. I was like, whoa, like that shows a little bit of IQ. I don't think he's the next Khabib. I think he's going to end up being his own person, but there's a very big similarities. There's very, very, very big similarities between the two. But the striking for me is what's the standout. Level striking. I don't know. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. He doesn't. He's never used it. He's always been wrestling game plan oriented. But
Khabib?
Yeah, but Makhachev showed a lot of good. He showed good striking last night.
No, we've seen Khabib strike. We've seen Khabib. That's one of the things we say about Khabib is that maybe he's not the best striker, but he's a good grappler to where it offsets it. Islam Makhachev seemed to be, again, in this fight, just seemed to be more willing and just seemed to have the more basis of how to strike and can put things together. Like you see him feint with the jabs and land it early on. You see when Thiago Moises is in the corner, him going with the hooks. You see this more of, it seems like he has more ability. He has more of ability in his striking than Khabib does. So if you're watching, we thank you. We love you. Please tell me in a comment in the chat, Seb, if you think Khabib is the same thing. Khabib is always going to be number one. Thank you. You know what? I'm posting this right now. Zachy, do you have this summarizes it all here. Khabib is always going to be number one.
Khabib.
There's not, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing that Islam Makhachev is not Khabib. Yeah. Like yesterday, and this is something that again I would say the UFC did a great job and it got people interested. A lot of people hit me up yesterday that are not avid MMA fans talking about who is this Islam Makhachev guy? Who is this Islam Makhachev guy? Is he the same thing as Khabib? Is he the next Khabib? And the answer I had for them was I don't know. We have to see. And I think the UFC did a great job in marketing Islam Makhachev and Khabib together as this is the next protege. This is the next person coming up. This is the person that's going to take the throne next. And the more you watch the fight, and if you've seen Islam Makhachev fight before, he has his own style and he has his own thing that kind of makes him unique. And so I don't think it's a bad thing that he's not Khabib Nurmagomedov, where he's going to take you down and grapple you and smother you and submit you or dominate you. I think it's good that he actually has his own style. And you know what? This actually may go into his favor because I think Islam Makhachev may be a more interesting fighter to watch than Khabib was. I think he has the potential to be that.
I think when it's all said and done, hopefully at the end of both, the careers, we don't want the reason why. Okay, let me just start here. Let's go back. Khabib is number one. There will never be another Khabib. 22-0?
29.
29-0. Sorry.
Yes.
29-0. There will never be another Khabib. Also, Islam Makhachev has lost fights before, so that's the thing, right? He has lost fights before.
Only one.
Only one, but still, we're not going to get that record, right? What is interesting about Islam Makhachev is that Makhachev is not trying to be anybody but himself, which is the best part about the whole thing. Last night, UFC has I think it's great to be compared to Khabib because the most dominant champion in the lightweight history ever is Khabib. Right. And so for you to kind of have to feel that, people to compare, that's beautiful. But I think what I'm liking about Islam Makhachev is that he's also taking this on his own. He's not too like, he's like, oh, like, yeah, like I'm better than anyone else. He's like, he's very humble and, humility. He has that step, but he also is a guy I'm impressed by him because he's calling people out. He is calling people out who are the top of the division. And so for me, I think he's not going to be another Khabib. You're going to know the name Islam Makhachev in a year. I guarantee you're going to be knowing that name.
I think so too. I think Islam Makhachev is well on his way of being his own man. And I'm not saying you should keep them distant from each other or not promote Islam Makhachev and Khabib the same. I just want to caution people that have this expectation that he's going to be Khabib Nurmagomedov, that he's not going to be Khabib Nurmagomedov. There's only, again, one Khabib Nurmagomedov. That's what makes him unique. Zach D says, I don't think fighters like being compared to. No, they don't. They don't. But I think what it is that fans that may not know the sport or may not watch the sport a lot, like people that don't know who Islam Makhachev before yesterday, or people that didn't know John Jones before, or don't know Izzy Adesanya before he became who he was. Like they like to compare because it's the easiest thing, and for casual fans, it's the easy way to like, oh, okay, that guy's like that guy. Okay, I can watch this guy now. Like Islam Makhachev. Islam Makhachev is going to be somebody where people did not know his name but know the association. So now they're like, oh, okay, he's like Khabib. Okay, I'm gonna watch Islam Makhachev.
Yeah, and it's okay. It's okay to compare people if you're saying, hey, like, I understand this is what he's doing. This is very similar to his style before, but you also have to give weight to the person who they are now and how they're growing and developing. And what we've seen, and this is where casual fans kind of miss the button, right? Is like they go, oh, he's like Khabib. It's like, yeah, he's like Khabib, but did you watch his last 3 fights? Did you see how he started to where he's at now? Did you see the growth and evolution? I'm not going to sit here and be one of those guys like, oh, you're not watching, you don't know.
No, of course not. Of course not.
Like I encourage people to really, the comparison is the easiest thing. The comparison is the basic thing. Now you go out and have to see what they bring to the table now in order to make them a champion. Because again, UFC changes every couple of years. So it's not going to be just as easy. Again, you have guys like Khabib who are very like 1 in a million type fighters, right? Like you're not going to get a fighter that good. But when you have a guy who's that good and who's also starting to get good at the other things that maybe Khabib was not good at, now we have an even bigger threat. So just continue to watch and grow and see how that fighter progresses, not just, saying, oh, well, he's like Khabib. Like, I know what I'm getting. It's like, yeah, he is like Khabib, but like tune in, see what he also is capable of, because he showed last night to me one of the best clinch games I've seen in a while.
Yes.
One of the best clinch games I've seen in a while. And in my opinion, you only get clinch games from like guys like Rafael Fiziev and things like you only get these kind of like from Tiger Muay Thai people. Like you're not seeing clinch game like this from a lot of people. So I don't know.
He's somebody that I think, I don't think fighters like to be compared to. No. I don't know if Islam Makhachev really puts much weight into that, because I think he is. I don't think that's in him. I think he just wants to fight and prove himself. That's the energy I've gotten from him. But I think it's necessary for casual fans to be hooked in, and once you have that hook in, now they could kind of see and see it for themselves with the difference between the two. Yeah. Same thing with Israel Adesanya and Anderson Silva or John Jones. Maybe we got the Israel Adesanya and John Jones comparison, and it could be so much different from each other.
And it's actually interesting. I feel like most people will compare Izzy to Anderson Silva.
Yes. But early on, we got the John Jones and Israel Adesanya comparison, and they can't be so much different from each other. It's just what casual fans do early on, to where now they can accept it, and now they're hooked in. Once you have that hook in, now you keep their attention, and now they can keep looking for you.
Again, not the worst thing.
Yes.
But the goal is to just keep watching, keep looking at the changes, because although people are similar, the game of MMA is evolving. So you gotta watch. You just gotta watch.
Now, Zach D, I do want to add you in the discussion since you're in the comment section. And I'm going to ask you this question as well. What do you think is next for Islam Makhachev? Because we heard the soundbite earlier on that Joe Rogan thinks he should be fighting for a title next. I don't think so. I think it should be the climb up for him. I think the division is kind of hectic as is right now. What would you like to see Islam Makhachev fight next?
You know, he beat Thiago Moises, right? And I think he was ranked around like 14, 15. So that's probably where he's going to insert, right?
Well, Islam Makhachev is ranked number 9.
Oh, he's ranked number 9. Oh my God, never mind.
Yeah.
Right. He's ranked number 9. I would love a fight against Rafael dos Anjos. I would love a fight against Tony Ferguson. He really doesn't enjoy Tony Ferguson, like wants to end his career, apparently. I would also like a fight against Gregor Gillespie. I think a guy like Gregor Gillespie, 2 wrestling-heavy gentlemen, would be formidable. Hear me out here.
Sure.
If you want war, let me get Dan Hooker in there.
That's another good one. I actually suggested that one on Twitter.
I will say this: Dan Hooker is the test of whether, like, and I'm not saying like that's as a skate, like a what do you call that?
Gatekeeper.
I'm not saying Dan Hooker's a gatekeeper because, in my opinion, I also think Dan Hooker could fight on short notice for the lightweight title and win. Like that, I'm that confident in him. I just think Dan Hooker presents many problems for a guy like Islam Makhachev. Not only with the length and the range, but a guy who has good takedown defense, who also can get his takedowns and trips as well. Sneakily, maybe not as technical as Islam, but I think you have a hard time with a guy like Dan Hooker. What about you? What do you think is next?
For me, I like the RDA fight, but I don't like it as much as I like the Tony Ferguson. I think Tony Ferguson would be a great fight for him. One, for Islam Makhachev to prove that he is of that ilk of being, in that top five range.
Yeah.
For Tony Ferguson, it'll be a proving ground for him because, again, we have the Khabib fight that's going to be happening so many times in the past. It just fell through. That maybe that storyline there, just not them being the same, but the storyline of finding the protege.
I think Islam wants that fight badly. That's one of the fights he really is requested.
And for Tony Ferguson, it's also a proving ground fight, right? For Tony Ferguson, who's going to probably fight the ranked number 9 guy in the division, we don't see Tony Ferguson really moving on from anywhere. And Zach D agrees it should be Tony Ferguson. For Tony Ferguson, it's a proving ground fight. Tony Ferguson has lost his last 2 or 3 fights. 2 or 3 fights now?
Yeah.
Right? So, for Tony Ferguson, who's getting older, who's also been through a lot in the division, been through a lot of tough fights, fighting an up-and-comer contender is a proving ground fight for him to see, okay, could Tony Ferguson still be that guy that we said were the 3 kings of the lightweight division? It was Conor, Tony Ferguson, and Khabib Nurmagomedov. Is Tony Ferguson still that guy, or is Tony Ferguson becoming somebody that is going to be, which I predicted a couple of shows ago, that Tony Ferguson probably going to be somebody that's going to be out of the division in the next 2 or 3 years from now.
Yeah. I'd be interested in seeing what happens. Not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, that sounds like a great. It can main event something. B, it could be a big featured fight on a main card on a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I think there's so many dynamics to that fight. I like the Tony Ferguson fight. Dan Hooker's also good too, but I like the Tony Ferguson more just because of how much that means for both guys.
Yeah.
That's fair. I was going to suggest Kevin Lee. That was another fight, but Kevin Lee is in welterweight division.
Yeah,
welterweight division. So that's done. But Tony Ferguson is the number 1 fight to make, more than the RDA, more than the Dan Hooker fight. Let me ask you this. Let's transition from Islam Makhachev. Let's now go towards the co-main event. The co-main event featured Miesha Tate, her return fight in, I believe, 5 years. Her last fight was in UFC 205 in 2016 versus, let me see, Marion Reneau?
Marion Reneau? She fought Marion Reneau last night, yeah.
Yes. Miesha Tate wins in impressive fashion. She dominates. She gets the TKO victory in the 3rd round. I thought Miesha Tate looked good early on. Elijah, what about you?
Good.
She looks good?
I want to say this. Miesha Tate, for someone who took 5 years off, she didn't look like she skipped a beat.
No.
She didn't look like she skipped a beat. I'm sure she was training and keeping healthy, but she's I think in the last 5 years she's had 2 children, and she's also been a very big contributor to ONE FC and getting their promotion, things like that. So for someone who is very busy, she looks good. She performed well. Striking looked better. I wouldn't say significantly better, but it just looked good. Her wrestling was good. The signature the signature shoot to double leg, and then there's it's weird, right? Because then she wraps one of her legs around the other leg, and not her leg, but obviously the opponent's, and tries to go for a trip too. So it's like this long, drag out double leg where it's like now you're stuck because now you tried to pivot out, but the other leg is now hooked in. So it's like now you're like just like when you fall, you're like, oh, now I'm out. Like that's kind of affected. And I love seeing that takedown from her, truth be told. But I thought she looked good, and I was very impressed. Marion Renault, actually, I always thought she was very good. I've always been a fan. I always thought she had great striking, great jiu-jitsu when it came time. And I want to say I'm happy that she's going to be moving on to another part of her life. And I wish her the best of luck. But Miesha Tate looked great last night. This is Miesha Tate's night.
Yeah, it was. Zach D, please tell me what you think about the Miesha Tate and Marion Renault fight, and what do you think from Miesha Tate going forward? And for the viewer watching, we appreciate you. Please comment in the live section as well. For me, though, man, Miesha Tate is somebody that I think the UFC needs. I think that bantamweight division needs really badly.
Yeah.
This is the first fight. Let's see how she does. Against somebody that's going to be probably ranked. I think she's talked about fighting Yana Kunitskaya. She talked about fighting Holly Holm again.
That fight, I don't want the Holly Holm fight.
No, me neither. Not yet.
Not yet. And the reason why is because Holly Holm has run out of fights. So if she fights Miesha Tate and beats Miesha Tate like in an impressive fashion, that halts Miesha Tate's progress a little bit, right?
Yes.
What I know the fight wasn't much. Obviously Miesha Tate dominated for most of the rounds until she got the finish. I will say this: if I'm Miesha Tate, I'll get Yana Kunitskaya at the number 6 spot. And the reason why is because a number 6 spot puts her in a position to fight anyone like Irene Aldana, Aspen Ladd, Jermaine Durandamy. These are solid people that she could be fighting within the next few months to get a title shot. So I would love to see her fight Kunitskaya.
Yeah, I think that's the right path as well. I think for her to jump right to the number 1 spot and fight Holly Holm or fight Irene Aldana or fight Aspen Ladd, I think that's maybe too soon. I mean, she's going to come off a 5-year layoff. I think you could find a way to work her back into the division and then work her way back to probably getting another title shot because the division needs it. Like we have Amanda Nunes fighting Juliana Pena next month, who, no disrespect to Juliana Pena, but not a lot of people know who Juliana Pena is. And Juliana Pena's not even just that. Juliana Pena last win was against Sarah McMahon. Yeah. So Juliana Pena is getting a title shot for Amanda Nunes of beating Sarah McMahon, who again Sarah McMahon is somebody that we've seen over the years that yeah, so and her loss before that was Jermaine Durandamy.
Yeah,
and these ladies are all fighting each other, and Amanda is just beating them all, and she's pretty much cleared out that division. So you need another challenger, you need another storyline, you need a hook, and I think Miesha Tate, if she comes back and she beats Yana Kunitskaya, and then she possibly beats maybe Holly Holm or somebody in that top 3, now we have a story of Miesha Tate coming back to get the title that she lost to Amanda Nunes all those years ago.
Unrealistic. This is never going to happen. What if this chain of events?
Don't you dare say Ronda Rousey. Don't you even dare. Don't you dare.
Listen to me. Hear me out.
Don't you dare.
What if this chain of events? I don't know if anyone's seen Loki yet. Sparks a what do you call that? The branch, a new reality, shall we say? Where now Ronda's like, if she comes back, I can come back, and then. Hear me out. Miesha Tate finally gets that win over Ronda Rousey. After 2 fights where she's been submitted to her, she finally gets that win. That's what I want Miesha Tate to ride off in the sunset, because I always thought Miesha Tate could beat Ronda Rousey. I always felt that Miesha Tate had all the skill necessary to beat Ronda Rousey, but it didn't happen in 2 fights. One, of course, for the title belt for Strikeforce, and the other for the UFC bantamweight belt. Obviously, Tyreece doesn't agree, but I would love to see Miesha Tate run it back with Ronda Rousey. I would love to see Miesha Tate get that W over Ronda Rousey, because I always thought she had all the skill in the world to beat Ronda. I've always thought that. I thought it would be great. And if Ronda was like, oh, she can come back, I can do it, Miesha Tate comes back and beats her. That's what I would love to see. You done having a hissy fit? You done?
Can you come to the camera a little bit?
I'm at the camera here.
Just a little bit closer. I can't really.
I'm not coming closer, sorry. Any closer, I'm going to be in the screen.
Okay, I'm trying to see if your eyes are dilated or there's something going on with you.
Well, before you do Issy Fin and left, you didn't hear my whole story. Ronda comes back. Miesha Tate.
I don't need to hear your story. This is a terrible idea.
I think Miesha Tate has always had all the skill necessary. I just don't understand why.
Who wants to see Miesha Tate versus Ronda Rousey 3? Who wants to see that?
Bow. Wait, here we go. Bow.
Nobody wants to see that. That's a terrible. That is the worst thing. That is the worst thing you've ever said on this show.
We could get worse. We could get worse.
I don't think it could get any worse.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I'm not guaranteeing it's going to happen.
Are we going to have Coach Edmund in the corner of Ronda Rousey?
Oh my, bro!
If we're going to have that, then that I'll watch.
In the last Shabazia fight, was Edmund there?
Yes.
I thought he wasn't.
Yes, he was there.
I thought he stopped.
Zach, I'm going to save that question. We're going to get to that in a second. That fight announcement, but I mean that's okay. So that fight in particular, that makes more sense than the bullshit that Elijah just said.
Doesn't matter.
Way more sense.
I would love to see Miesha Tate get that W. I want to see Miesha Tate ride into the sunset. I don't think that fight's more impressive than the fight with Nunes, though. If she's able to get back to a fight with Nunes and beat Nunes, because there's not anyone who could beat Nunes at the moment, I would be the most impressed I've ever been by a fighter. And that's saying a lot, because there's a lot of people here who have been walling out these last couple years, especially during COVID. But yeah.
Zach D, I don't know if you're new to the show or it's the first time I'm seeing you, so appreciate you being on the show, and we hope to have you on here more. Also, join the Discord and for watch-alongs and UFC discussions. I don't know if you've been watching the show for long. Well, I will say that Ronda Rousey take of Ronda Rousey coming back to fight Miesha Tate is the worst take this guy's ever had on the show. So I don't want this to be this is the lowest bar that you can get for him. Only thing from here is up. All right, it's only gonna get better. I promise you. You will not see anything more than that.
I know you're not as I know you don't get as chickened out or wussied out like Tyreece does. And Tyreece, he has these hissy fit moments where he believes what he says is the greatest. And sure, what I said, Ronda Rousey coming back, it could be wrong, but I bet you there's talks. Mark my words. Tyreece was supposed to eat a denim jacket because he thought Nate was gonna win, and what happened? Nate lost. Anyway, moving on. Nate almost did he win though? He
just said a new song.
Great. That's
welcome
awesome.
To the party. Welcome to the party.
Okay, Pop Smoke. So listen, before we move on to that next question, Tyreece, was there anything else in this card that you could say was piqued your interest, gave you like, oh wow, that was interesting, or that was a good fight to watch?
So we both agree on this guy should be next for Tate, right?
For sure.
All right. I think that's the perfect way to cap off that part.
Yeah, we talked about that.
For Mary Reneau, though, we want to touch on this for a second. I thought the UFC did a great job of sending her off. This is her last fight. She ends her career, I believe, 9-8-1.
Mm-hmm.
She started her career late at 33 years old.
36.
No, she started her UFC career at 36. She started her MMA career at 33. Which is like very, very late in your career, and in this world of trying to be a challenger and trying to go up the division.
Remember, women's MMA didn't really successfully come around till late, so that's the other thing too.
Exactly, that's a great point, actually, Elijah. And so, like, she's fought in other organizations. She fought in the Warrior Cage. She fought in Resurrection Fight Alliance. She fought even in Tai Chi Palace, the famous Tai Chi Palace, where a lot of UFC contenders or a lot of UFC people on the roster, fighters on the roster, have come from as well.
Yeah.
So she's been other organizations. She fought her way to the UFC, got there at 36 years old. People talked about how she would never do anything, and now that she's too old to be in the UFC, to be starting her UFC career, and she goes in there and she won her UFC debut against Alexis Dufresne at UFC 182.
Yeah, Ronda Reneau, I do think she's going to be, when we're all said and done, looking back at women's MMA, she's going to be one of those people who was highlighted as like one of the earlier pioneers, right? Yes. She's had Dufresne. She's beat Jessica Andrade. She's fought the who's who of that women's bantamweight division. And I've always wondered, I don't think she would have, but I've always wondered how she would do at flyweight.
Yeah, that's another good point.
Yeah, that was my biggest thing because I didn't think she was a big bantamweight. It's just the striking was great, and yes, age matters. I agree, but I always thought that it just was the timing. I always thought
Yes.
that if she was fighting women a little bit smaller, like in a flyweight division, I thought she would have the edge in most of her fights.
Yeah, I think I think age does matter, and it does at the same time because age matters in the sense where she started her career later than what you would want,
Yeah.
and she got to UFC at 36 years old. She ends her career at 44 years old. So the timing wasn't on her side. At the same time, though, she defied the notion that age matters, and she at 36 years old and probably way not in her probably not in the best condition that she would have probably been in her 20s or whatever. She showed that no, I can still compete and I can still be at the highest level. She has wins over the likes of Jessica Andrade.
Yeah,
Sarah McMahon.
She beat a lot. She beat good people, and
she's fought good people. She's fought Raquel Pennington. She's fought Kat Zingano. She fought Yana Kunitskaya. She fought
in her last couple of fights, she's fought mostly not mostly title challengers, but Yana Kunitskaya entered the UFC at 145 to try to beat Cyborg, right?
Yeah.
Raquel Pennington fought Amanda Nunes within the last 3 or 4 years tops.
Yeah.
And Sarah McMahon was on her way. She fought Ronda. Kat Zingano fought Ronda. So she's fought the top of the division, or at least I want to say the main staples of the women's bantamweight division for quite some time.
Yeah, and she's never been finished.
No.
I don't think she's ever been finished.
Let me pull a record up here. I'm just gonna go ahead and look at her loss. No, that's the first TKO loss she's ever had.
Yeah, it's the first TKO loss she's ever had. So she's fought all these top level ladies in a division, and she's never been finished. Which again is good for her. I'm glad the UFC gave her her flowers and let her ride to the sunset and give her that big farewell that sometimes we wish UFC gives to other legends and people that are retiring, but unfortunately they don't get it. But she got it here, and that's I want to give credit to where credit's due to the UFC for doing that. Zach D says age matters because the older you get, the slower you get. We've seen with other fighters. Yes, that is true. That is true that age matters because as of course you get older, you're not able to move as much. You're not as your reflexes die down. You're not all that is true,
except for Yoel Romero.
Except for Yoel Romero, that is Yoel Romero is a special case.
Very special case.
Maybe on some maybe no, I'm not gonna say it, but for Marin, age matters, but she tried to defy that, and whether it resulted in her getting a victory or resulted in her losing, she still went out there and put on a show and was able to perform at the highest level, where other females who are younger than her aren't able to do, and wouldn't be able to hang with the fighters that she's hung with, or wouldn't be able to get wins over Jessica Andrade or Sarah McMahon. So age matters. But also skill matters as well, and technique matters as well, and just having that it factor, have it that as well. So it goes both ways. It definitely goes both ways. What do you see from her going here? I think the UFC has something where they could have her as a broadcast analyst. I think they need more female representation to cover the fights. I think that would be great.
I would love to see her. I would like to see her do breakdowns of fight the same way Dominic Cruz does, right? I would love to see her kind of
Angela Hill does it too.
Knowledge. I would love to see her kind of show that because she's one of the best strikers there. In my opinion, she's always been a top tier striker, right? But she's just putting it together is kind of hard as you're getting older, and the division is always changing, and everyone's becoming good at everything. Not just you get specialists. We are done with the age of specialists now. Being a specialist is great, and that's what's going to get you here. But to get longevity, it's just not. There's very few cases where you can see that alone is going to bring you to the top now, right? Yeah. But you let the UFC utilize it, and if they don't, that's fine. Let's get her back into Invicta, right? Let's get her let's get her into things like that where she's also being able to share that knowledge and show what she's learned and kind of implement that for not only UFC but other organizations. So she could be I hope this isn't the end for her. I hope the fight world recognizes the kind of fighter they have, the caliber of person they have, and they utilize her well. And I hope she gets compensated well for that.
Yeah, and I'm just pulling this exactly. It said replying to the older you get, slower you get into our comments. He said it does depend on the fighter. All fighters are different. Some might be 40, but still moving like they're 30. Yeah, like a Yo Romero who's doing backflips and splits. That's embarrassing both me and Elijah here, who can't do backflips or flips.
I can do a backflip. I just can't guarantee I'll be alive after.
I call bullshit on you doing the backflip.
I can do a backflip. I just can't guarantee I'll be alive after.
But good on the UFC for handling her like a legend she is, and hopefully they use her in the future. Other fights I thought of note before we go off the UFC Vegas 31. I thought I can't pronounce his name. I'm going to try. Yes, man, he is somebody that you got to look out for.
He did what anyone who fights Jeremy Stephens should do. You cannot stand with this guy unless you're the superior striker, which I do think Matisse Gamrot is a great striker. The issue with Jeremy Stephens is he's relentless.
Right.
And I think in almost every fight he's had, except for I think it's very few instances where he hasn't hurt his opponent. And he's a finisher. If he hurts you, he finishes you. That's guaranteed. That's like the general trend of that is if he can hurt you, he can finish you. So I think that he neutralized him very perfectly with the ground game, got the Kimura, and made him tap. I thought that was beautiful.
Man, the UFC has did a great job over during COVID of getting talent. And they got Garam Kutaladze, who beat him, who I'm excited to see him fight again. You have Gamrot, who is on a 2-fight win streak after losing to Gamrot, and he's beat Scott Holtzman. Now he's beating Jeremy Stephens. Like the UFC, that lightweight division is going to be very, very interesting in the next couple of years. Not just Islam Makhachev, but there's a bunch of crop of contenders just getting into their stride in the UFC, and we're going to see a whole different division in the next 2 or 3 years. I promise you that Garam and Gamrot will be in the division and be ranked. There's so many good fights going to be coming.
Yeah,
definitely for sure. And all finishes were on the main card. A lot of the finishes. Billy Quarantello with a great win over Benitez.
He makes it dirty. Quarantillo makes it dirty. This guy scraps. This guy, and he's not. I don't know if he's the most polished striker and things like that, but he is so willing to push forward and make you. He makes it ugly, like when they talk about dog fights, but not like your Rock'em Sock'em robots. Like he's like pushing the pace, trying to grapple you, just moving, constantly doing something. And he pushes the pace for 3 rounds. I wonder how he does that whenever he gets to a 5-round fight, I wonder how he keeps that kind of that level of I want to say, I guess, cardio, because it's hard. That pushing the pace like that is hard. And it's obviously he gets tired in his fights. But damn, I'd be damned if that guy doesn't put it together well and it's a dog fight. You fight him, you can be like, damn, relax.
Yeah, he's definitely somebody that's going to be, a fan favorite, and somebody that hopefully the UFC utilizes and promotes, and as him being that fan favorite, like a Max Griffin, who I've interviewed in the past. Exactly, he watched that interview we did. Max Griffin, who was a fan favorite and had some impressive performances, and now Max Griffin is somebody where his name is becoming more and more in the UFC. Pop culture name and getting those fights. Daniel Rodriguez is another one. A good performance for him too.
D-Rod performed well last night.
This card, exactly. If you're new to the show, this is what we give our ratings for the show. Usually we go rankings from A plus, A, B, B plus.
Never give an F.
F. We never give an F. We almost did. But Elijah, what would we give this card?
If this card had Holloway on it, this would have been an easy A with all these finishes in the main card, but it didn't. But that's no one's fault. It is what it is.
It's what it is.
I'm gonna give this card a B minus. I'll be generous. A B minus.
Zach, you put your grade in the comment section. We'll read it out here. For me, this card, which was something I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
This card was something that I was like,
don't know if
we just came off the high of UFC 264. This one's coming on at 10 o'clock in Eastern time. It doesn't need to be that. A little late for what it was. I will say, though, there were some very great performances. Miesha Tate was a good performance. Gamrot was a good performance. Islam Makhachev was a good performance. Like, there's a lot of good performances on this card, and for that reason, and for the fact that they delivered on the main card, I will give it a solid B plus. Or you know what? Yeah, I'll give it a solid B plus. I'll be generous. I'll give it a solid B plus. I think this main card was better than many would expected it to be. The Miesha Tate fight performance, I think, was better than we expected it to be on 5 years.
Way better. I thought there'd be a little bit of struggle then finding it, but she had it. She had it.
Yeah, Gamrot was a great addition to that lightweight division. Like, there's a lot you can pull from. This is a solid B plus card for me. I'll
go B then.
Like, there are some performances on this card you will go back and watch, like the Gamrot win, the Islam Makhachev win, of course.
Yeah.
Even the Miesha Tate win. Her coming back off 5 years notice and doing what she did. It's a good performance. So I'll give it a solid B plus. It's something where if you want to do something, just want to watch something in the background, or just want to watch some good performances or some highlights, you can definitely watch this card just by itself, and you'll get some good views.
You'll get some good fights.
Yes. All right, now let's get to the news section of the show. Ready, Elijah?
Sure. Why not?
All right. So it was announced, I believe, was it last Monday? It was last Monday, I believe. Yeah. Monday, Tuesday, that Nick Diaz will be making his UFC return in September for UFC 266 versus Robbie Lawler. Now, these guys fought years ago, before me and you watched the show, before me and you was even thinking about UFC or MMA in general. Zach D, I don't know how old you are. I don't know if you watched this live or were around when this first happened. Nick Diaz defeats Robbie Lawler in the first fight. It was a crazy exchange. It's legendary for both their careers. Nick Diaz coming from such a long layoff of the suspension for marijuana, and the USADA and all that mess, and negotiations with the UFC about fighters' pay and everything like that. Now, Nick Diaz, after years and years of, is he coming back? Is he not coming back? Is he coming back? Is he not coming back? Now Nick Diaz is back. Elijah, you react to it.
I love to see it. What do you mean my reaction? You love to see it. This is a guy who I think he's been screwed. For a guy who brings a lot to MMA just on the name value alone, and what you get, you get name value when you hear a Diaz name, whether it's Nate or Nick, right? These guys have been a part of almost every big organization you can think of back in the day. Pride, UFC. And so, these guys are very instrumental in building those lower weight divisions, right? Like welterweight, lightweight.
Yep.
Middleweight. He competed at middleweight, I think, at some point, right? Because he fought. I think when you hear Nick is coming back, I'm excited. I do think he's been screwed by with that suspension, in my opinion, but he's back. I'm interested to see where he goes from here, and I'm happy. I'm ready. It's time. I wonder how he'll be as a fighter, and I wonder how this fight will take place. I think the most bets are going to go towards Robbie Lawler, but you never know. You never know when you're fighting a Diaz. That's the thing.
You never do know, and from what we've heard over the years and over this last year, we've heard that Nick Diaz is in the best shape of his life.
Yeah,
we've heard that he's still being active, still doing triathlons. It was in one recently. He's still in great shape, and he's been helping Nick Diaz in his return fights and his training camps. If we're getting that Nick Diaz, I like that. I think he could be a great addition to the UFC roster. Again, maybe he's not going to be a title challenger, but he could be somebody that can, fight big names or fight legendary fights, or be somebody that could fight these big money fights. He don't have to be a title challenger. He could be somebody that you'll be an attraction that you want to see, an actual real attraction, not like a Greg Hardy or a a CM Punk. He could be an actual real attraction where you want to see what he does. You want to see how he fares. You want to see a legend fight a legend. You want to see Robbie Lawler versus Nick Diaz. Maybe you do Nick Diaz versus Tony Ferguson at one point. Maybe you do Nick Diaz versus a Jorge Masvidal. Maybe you do there's a
lot of exciting matchups.
Down Cerrone. There's so many names you can pull from here where it's like, okay, Nick Diaz does add a level of intrigue, add a level of a fanfare. People want to see this guy, and then for other fighters like a Robbie Lawler, like a Down Cerrone, like a Tony Ferguson, those are big fights.
Yeah,
not everything
regardless
has to be
of where they're at in their career.
Yes,
regardless of where their career. I mean, obviously they're not going to draw in $1 million. I mean, maybe they could.
Maybe.
Right? Alone, probably not. But you put those names together in the hat, you mix them around, and you see who's fighting who. You get wars.
Let me just pose this idea for you, and Zach, you could tell me what you think of Nick Diaz and what do you think of this idea. What if you're probably some banging around? It's the morning people walking around. What if, let's say Nick Diaz beats Robbie Lawler in September, right? Dustin Poirier needs to fight. This is a great transition. We're going to talk about our next topic, right? What if you do Nick Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal? You do Nate Diaz versus Dustin Poirier.
Yep. At 170. Everybody at 70.
Brother against brother, teammates against teammates, teammate versus teammates. Imagine how that card would be.
I think that card draws over $1 million.
Oh, 100%. 100%. But I'm just saying, those are like the type of possibilities, just open-minded fights you could make, where it don't have to be for a title per se. It could be these big attraction fights that are competitive.
While it is about fighting for the title, everybody can't fight for the title at once.
Right.
Thus, make fights.
Right.
Make
that matter.
Matchups.
That matter.
That's it. There's nothing needs more said than that. Like, that's just it. That's a great matchup for fights on a card. And this is why, again, this is where UFC is getting to a point where they don't need certain superstars, because they also getting, some people are coming back. It's just UFC's changed from back in the day, and this is something I'm looking forward to with Nick on the rise back. So we'll see. I'm excited. I'm very excited, and for Robbie Lawler too. He hasn't won a fight in a while. I think he's on a 3-fight losing streak. With losses to Colby Covington and let's see who else.
Ben Askren.
It's and Robbie Lawler is still just as dangerous as he was.
RDA.
He's a little older and things like that, but I'm interested to see where it goes.
Yeah, this is something where a Robbie Lawler fight, he's been looking for a big fight to come back to for a while, and I even posed the Max Griffin Robbie Lawler fight at one point. That fight didn't happen, unfortunately, with Carlos Condit. But this is good for Robbie Lawler. It's good for legends in general, for people that be able to fight big name fights without having to have a title wrapped around it. And yeah, maybe Robbie Lawler makes some money off that. Maybe Nick Diaz makes some money off that. Everybody wins here. So good for the UFC for finally getting this deal together, and good for Nick and Robbie for fighting again in the second fight in September. Now moving on to the next topic on here, Dustin Poirier. So Dustin Poirier, me and Toby Green, who again we talked about on the Discord. Again, Zach, you can join the Discord. We have watch-alongs there on UFC fights. We have discussions about MMA that we can't really talk on here a lot. Dustin Poirier is beat Conor McGregor at UFC 246, as we know, or 64, as we know. He hasn't never said officially that yes, I'm only going for Charles Oliveira. He said that he's open to that fight, and that could be the next fight. He also said it could be a Conor 4 match. It could be he's never totally committed himself to one thing.
No.
So I asked you this, Elijah. Nate Diaz recently posted a proposition to Dustin Poirier about fighting at 185. I think that's not going to happen at all. 185. I can see a 170.
Yeah.
And so I asked you, Elijah, if you were in Dustin Poirier's shoes, or if you was his manager, what fight would you take?
Take the Nate fight.
So you're not even taking the title fight yet.
Well, the reason why we may not take the title fight is because at this point in his career, right? There's not too many fights he's going to have left because he's beaten most guys.
Right.
Lightweight. Now, the one thing I could say is if he doesn't have to cut weight and he fights normally at around the 170, probably 180, which he weighs around, it's not that bad because he can still cut down to 155 and still perform, right? But the thing would be that for him to go to for him, I think it's more advantageous to fight Nate to continue to making that big money, then go fight for the belt. But I can also see it the other way around, right? You go get the belt, then go back up, and then you have more leeway saying, "Hey, I have the belt, I can do what I want, I beat everybody else in the division."
Right.
You know, like if you think about it, he's beaten Gaethje already. If you look at the ranking, he's beaten Gaethje, he's beaten Connor. Who else has he beaten? He's beaten
Dan Hooker.
Michael Chandler, hasn't fought Beneil Dariush, hasn't fought Tony Ferguson, but like the likelihood of them getting title belts in the next few months is a little bit harder because it's still bottlenecked at the top. Then you also have guys like he beat Dan Hooker. He's not fighting Islam Makhachev anytime soon. So I mean, he could fight for the belt and then go fight Nate, but the fight against Nate, you know, it's just one makes more money but one gives you the belt. That's the thing. If we're looking at money, go Nate. That's what I would tell him. If you really want to do the money, go Nate. You're gonna get the money there.
So on the Discord, me and Toby Green, we were having a discussion as we're watching the fights, and one of the things we talked about was what matters more. Does a title fight matter more than the big money fight? And my response to that was the money fight, obviously. And he said, well, every fighter dreams to be the champion. Every fighter wants to be the champion. And I said, every fighter wants to be a champion because of what the champion entails, what the championship means.
What being the champion of a division should mean.
Should mean, correct. And where the championship will bring you more money, the championship will bring you more opportunities, the championship will bring you a better lifestyle than what you have now or what you've been striving for.
Yeah.
And we were debating about Dustin Poirier and whether he should take the money fight or the Oliveira fight. And yeah, that was what we came up to. I came up to was just like Dustin Poirier, for a majority of his career, has been underpaid of what his value could be and should be. Right? I think we've been on here and we've been public about saying fighters are underpaid in general. But you know, the elite of the elite are underpaid. Right? Dustin Poirier, you think for all he's done in his career, for the fights he's been in, the wars he's been in, the moments he's contributed to the sport, he should be getting paid $1 million for at least a couple of fights by now, right?
I want to say every fight starting towards like the Eddie fight, he should have been making those big bucks.
Right. And so Dustin Poirier, this year alone, I'm willing to bet all the money I have in my bank account that Dustin Poirier is making more money this year than he has in the entire UFC run.
Probably.
I think that's pretty safe to say with pay-per-view points, with him fighting Conor McGregor. It's the first time I've heard an M attached to his purse.
It could be. We could also see the case where that's true, but you know, bonuses. He does have a lot of bonuses.
What do we know about bonuses, Elijah?
Bonuses have increased, apparently.
Bonuses have increased in the last couple of months.
Literally a few weeks. They raised it to 75,000 instead of 50.
Right. Well, what do we also know about bonuses? What did Charles Oliveira, the champion, the UFC lightweight champion, tell us about bonuses?
I don't know. You tell me.
Okay. So Charles Oliveira, who is the king of bonuses, who's had bonuses, even had bonuses against Michael Chandler. And again, sorry, you're going to hear stuff in the background, people moving around. It's nothing to do about it. But Charles Oliveira talked about how those bonuses, if you really look at it, first, gotta take taxes out of the bonuses, right? Then you gotta pay your training camp. Then you gotta think about expenses. And so by the time, and then some conditions for fighters, some live in other countries where they had to convert that money, right? So the more and more you'll see that money dwindle to where it's like, okay, $50,000 turned to probably $10,000 or $15,000. You get what I'm saying? So like those bonuses, how much did it really come out to when it was all said and done? We don't know from Dustin Poirier, but we do know of all the expenses comes to being a fighter.
Yeah.
We also do know that this is the first time I've ever seen Dustin Poirier's career that $1 million is attached to his name now.
Never before.
This is the first time I've seen Dustin Poirier's name be among others like a Steve-O or other celebrities now. Like everything this year is new for Dustin Poirier of being this guy.
There's not, I wouldn't say celebrity, but there's potential superstar status.
There is potential superstar status. There is with all he's done with the Conor McGregor fights, the way he's handled it, like that. If like that price of just opportunities, fame, potential sponsorships. He has his own business he's trying to do. Like all of that, there's not a price on that, right? So for Dustin Poirier, why would I take the Charles Oliveira fight? If the goal to be a champion is I get the champion, I get to make more money, I get to do this and that. Well, I'm already doing that. I'm doing it before the champion.
Better than the champion who's currently
exactly. So it's a no-brainer. If you're Dustin Poirier's manager, I would advise him, hey, let's go with the Nate fight. Let's see if we can get a good buy rate for this fight. Maybe do it on pay-per-view or whatever. And because Nate's name is bigger now as well from fighting Leon Edwards, even though he lost. Dustin Poirier's name is bigger now. You have that storyline. They're supposed to fight so many times. That fight could probably do a better buy rate than Charles Oliveira's next title fight, which probably going to need 2 or 3 title fights to even make a dent in their pay-per-view bonus.
You also have more to add to your point. You also now have more to bring to the table in terms of argument for contract, right?
Thank you.
A successful win over Nate Diaz or a very successful pay-per-view means that my name has stock.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing that fighters don't always have, right? Is a lot of fighters can't argue for their name and their stock. But Poirier is kind of in that position where he can now. Poirier can argue and say, hey, like, I'm doing these draws. People are coming and tuning in and buying pay-per-views to watch me.
Right. And now he's the A side, unlike the champion of Charles Oliveira. Dustin Poirier, if he goes in there, let's say he fights Nate Diaz, beats Nate Diaz, right? Let's say he says, you know what? Nah, Conor McGregor's ready to fight now. I'm going to take Conor McGregor 4-time, right? Whenever Dustin Poirier decides to go back to the title, because he's going to be somebody that is going to be, hey, Dustin Poirier is the guy. He's beating these guys. He's making the most money than the champion. He's doing all this and all that. Dustin Poirier is going to be called out by the champion to fight.
Yeah. And
there's a difference.
It's going to look like, oh, maybe he's ducking and dodging. Sure. That's a narrative you can relate, but
but who cares?
Listen, look, at the end of the day, he's getting paid to do more than fight you. So,
watching him fight him. Watching him fight than you are.
Exactly. So, at the end of the day, you could say all you want, but you're winning because you're fighting and you're doing. He's winning because he's making more money. So
exactly. So like again, the championship, it does matter in certain instances where you're trying to get to that level, like a Charles Oliveira. And it's not trying to discredit Charles Oliveira, but it's a point to say the title fight isn't the direct route. There's different ways and different routes for fighters to take to where they can make more money. And at the end of the day, it's not about the championship; it's what comes with the championship. Elijah,
it's not only. I'm just gonna go back to what you said. It's not only getting to be a champion. That's not the only option in UFC anymore.
Right.
It was become champion, make the money. The formula is there. There is a new formula. Formulas have derivatives. There is a new formula to be equally as successful in UFC without being champion. Now, that doesn't mean everybody can do it. Hear me out here.
Right.
Just because there's few people who do it, that is a path, but everyone has not obtained that status. Poirier has just now gotten to that dance. Conor has had that dance for a while. Nate has had that dance, I wouldn't say just as long as Conor has had it, in my opinion, right? So again, there are exceptions to this new path and this new formula for being successful without being champion, which I think Poirier, I'm not upset for him for exploring, but understand that the championship is important, but the championship belt is important, but for certain guys, some guys are, so you know how to say some people are bigger than the sport?
Yes.
Some guys are just bigger than being champion. Not to say they can't win or lose, but it's just bigger than being the champion right now. And Poirier's already reached it.
Oh, what you call it? Sorry, I just got a text message from somebody. But again, I think I told Toby Green this verbatim. He asked me a question, and he said, "What do you think matters to Dustin Poirier? Him being his career, him being a champ, him being a money grabber and somebody that only going for big fights and big money, or him showing his daughter that he's a champion." I think that he told me that that is what's going to impact Dustin Poirier's legacy. And I said, Dustin Poirier's legacy is already solidified, and Dustin Poirier cares more about feeding his family and setting a better life for his kids than a title. That's what matters more. And I think if Dustin Poirier was to end his career today, I think he would stand on that, and I think he would, if he had one more fight left on his contract, and it was either fight Charles Oliveira or fight Nate Diaz, I would think 1,000% he would go with Nate Diaz just because of how much that would mean to his family. So that's my take on it. I think what the UFC may do, they may do Charles Oliveira, but don't rule out Nate Diaz out of this equation. I think that's very much in play, and you could very much do Charles Oliveira versus Justin Gaethje.
Yeah,
and then do the winner of that fights Nate Diaz possibly, maybe. Yeah.
Possible.
And lastly, the last topic on the show today, you guys have been watching. Thank you, Zach D. You've been great. For the viewer watching, if you haven't already, please subscribe, share, like. Please comment in a second. Tell us what you think of all these topics and what you think of this overall of MMA in general. And join the Discord. Lastly, Conor McGregor. This whole entire week, Conor McGregor was talking about his injury and how he was injured going into the fight. He talked about how he had a stress fracture. And I'm going to ask you this because when I replayed in my mind, because everybody has their own conspiracy theories about how he broke his leg and stuff like that. As you go back, I kind of look at the Conor McGregor fight differently now. A little differently, because I do feel like there were hints that there may have been an injury. Like if you go through the Embedded series or you go through the Countdown series, you'll see him using ice baths and stuff like that. You'll see him wrap the ankle up or wrap the leg up pretty tightly. Like there's been little hints of that. And I want to ask you this, Elijah. A, do you buy this excuse? And B,
I wouldn't call it an excuse because I think there's no fighter that goes into a fight. They probably feel 100%, but if you were to like do a full workup, they can be cleared. You have to be cleared for a fight. So on some medical level, he was cleared enough to be a fighter, right? But I do think there's always something that can happen in a fight. I always think that fighters, no matter what, walk into a fight with some type of injury or some type of thing that's plaguing them, right? Maybe that's wrong. Maybe what I'm saying is wrong, and I think that's possible. But for a guy like Conor, who does train in the way he does, and he has very unique training style and things like that, I could see this being a thing where he had the stress fracture or stretch fractures in his legs and things like that, or arms or whatever. But at the end of the day, I think this is also one of those things that it just happened. It literally just happened, and you kind of have to suck it up and say, okay, and move on. I don't know if I wouldn't think. I'm not reading too far into it, into being a theory. I think what we've seen is that we've seen a lot more leg kicks and leg breaks recently than we've ever seen in UFC history. We saw them maybe once in the blue moon, but now we're seeing them. I guess the rate is almost like maybe 2 to 3 a year now, right?
Yeah, we've seen 2 instances on a pay-per-view this year.
Yeah.
With Chris Weidman and then Jimmy Crute.
Yeah. So in reality, it's just I'm leaving it up to one of those weird experiences in fight sports and calling it a day. There's nothing more you can take from it. The fight didn't go any longer. Sure, he could have walked into it. Sure, he didn't walk. Maybe he could have walked into the fight with it. Maybe he didn't walk into the fight with it. It really doesn't matter because he's not going to be able to fight for a while. So for me, I'm not putting much stock into it. I don't really care anymore whether or not he walked into the fight with it or not, because at the end of the day, he ended up breaking his leg. So realistically, you just move on. I think everyone should move on from the moment, but you could think otherwise. Let's hear what you say.
No, I think you hit on a lot of points there. I do believe that all fighters to an extent come into a fight with injuries. No fighter I think can ever be 100% from what they go through.
No.
That being said, I do think that I think that's more of, and we'll get to this in a second. I think this is more of Conor McGregor is letting you know that, hey, this is a stress fracture, and hey, this is what I put this much stress on my body, and this was attributed to the doctor stoppage that happened. I think it's an excuse to the point of not because of like what happened entirely, but as a, hey, this fight happened this way because of this. Now let's see when I'm healthy, let's see the rematch. I think that's what I'm saying. The excuse is not more so for the loss itself, but more to set up the next fight. And like, doctors and talk about how doctors clear things and stuff like that. We've seen fighters go into a fight with staph infection, with visible staph infection. The most evident one would be Keith Lee. When Keith Lee fought Tony Ferguson, he has that staph infection. Well, Keith Lee actually had staph infection twice. Kevin. I said Keith, right?
We love Keith.
Keith's friend of the show.
Keith's a good guy. It's a great guy. It's my guy.
Kevin Lee had staph infection twice in his fights. I believe one with Charles Oliveira and then one with Tony Ferguson, right? And that got cleared. So sometimes things do get by the doctors, and ultimately I also think this: it will, if the UFC was to cancel Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier, or if they were to say, okay, that fight's not happening, the main event's going to be Stephen Thompson versus Burns, how much of a catastrophe that would have been. So I do think there's a point in when you're at a certain level where if you call out of a fight, it is very, very bad, not only for public perception, but also for business. Yeah. And that's what
the person.
Yeah. And now you have to fight with an injury. Now you have to fight with a broken foot or broken arm or whatever. Henry Cejudo fought with a bad shoulder against Marlon Moraes. Like these things happen to where like they may not be 100%, but they have to fight because of who they are in their careers and how if they pull out, it shuts down the whole entire organization, which again shows the power of the UFC, of the fighters in the UFC has, and how the fighters can use that to their advantage.
Yeah,
neither here nor there. Let me ask you this: do you buy this, and do you think this could? Do you think not actually do you buy it, but do you think this could change public perception to want to see a fourth fight?
Maybe. I wouldn't say it changes it too much. I think people want to see Conor fight. There's fans who want to see Conor get this back because I think that he could have possibly done something different with Poirier being able to be tired for the rest of the fight. Or there's some people who think that Poirier, was dominated, so there's no need. I'm going back to my original point. I would like to see. I don't care what happened in this fight. I would like to see a fourth fight, sure. I just don't know with the timing of UFC and how things are going to change in the next 6 to 8 months. I just don't see it. I just don't see that. I don't see the fight actually coming to fruition. I would love to see the fight, right? Because that, to me, I like seeing the highest level of competitors compete, and I always think Conor and Poirier put on a great show and they match up well against each other. But at the end of the day, I just don't see them. I don't see that fourth fight coming to fruition as quick as people think it will.
I think that fight happens again next year. I think that fight happens probably in the summer of next year, same July. I could just see the seeds being planted already. You have Conor McGregor coming out and talking about how he was injured going into the fight. That again, public perception, it may not change as much because they want to see him fight anyway, but it does give hope, and it does give some type of idea of okay, maybe if he wasn't injured going to the fight, what would happen and this and that. We talk about Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. What would happen if Manny Pacquiao had then going with a bad shoulder? Like there are some things to where a bad result of a fight, you find that somebody gets injured and then that changes your whole perspective of what you think that fight could have been. So I do think this does leave some room of hope and does leave some room enthusiasm and optimism for what could be a fourth fight happening same time next year.
Agree.
So we'll see what happens there. Conor McGregor's on the road to recovery. Dustin Poirier is on the road to possibly getting his next big paycheck and setting his family up for life. So yeah, that is pretty much UFC news. That's pretty much UFC fights this week. Next week we will be off. You have obligations you got to attend to.
Yep.
So we won't be able to cover Tito Dillashaw versus Sandhagen, which I know a lot of people that have been watching the show would love to hear us talk about. What we could do. So again, the description is on the Discord description is in the description. I keep saying that over again. Sorry, I'm tired at this point. I will be on Discord during the TJ fight.
Yeah.
If you join the Discord, you can hear me talk about the TJ fight, and as I watch it live. We can also talk about a bunch of other things in MMA or UFC that happens that week. But definitely could get you guys on, and we could definitely talk about it together and have an open dialogue of what happens and everything MMA and UFC that weekend. So we won't be doing a live show. We'll be back the following week.
Yeah.
And you could join Discord and you could have a live discussion with me, Tyriece Simon, as we talk about as we watch UFC Vegas 32. All right, so that's the plan for next week. We're gonna be off next week, and then we'll be back the following week for Sean Strickland versus Uriah Hall. All right, so that's the plan. Again, join Discord. You get to hear more from us. All right, anything you want to say, Elijah, before we end the show?
No, that was it. You covered everything beautifully.
Zach D, we appreciate you. Thank you for being a new subscriber. Thank you for joining the show. We appreciate you. We hope to see more of you. Hope to see you on Discord so we can have more of the discussions and we could watch the fights together. I'm really enjoying having me actually talk to you guys and get to know about you guys besides, the comment section. So definitely appreciate you guys. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook at Tyriece Simon. Elijah, you can find him on Instagram as the Black Card Ken, and his other miscellaneous names that he has on Instagram and Twitter. Signing off. My name is Tyriece Simon.
Elijah Jones.
This has been MMA Renegade Podcast, episode 12.